The Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Chicago, I don't know why they're even in this league, Bears. We're going to take it apart in great detail because it's shit on Bears week. I'm Lawrence Prez and Teddy covers like always. Welcome everybody to WagerTalk Today, the best daily sports betting show on the planet, and it is Football Friday. Ralph Michaels joining us. Ralph, we're excited to have you, man. Tons of action on tap. What's going on?
I feel absolutely naked. I'm recording in a different spot, and I don't have my pen. Oh, my God. I think that's the first show that's ever happened.
No pen, Teddy.
Excuse me, Ralph. You make me laugh. You make me laugh too hard. No pen, no show. That's it. It just throws everything off. Ralph, let's get into it. Obviously, Football Friday. We want to talk NFL, college football, the marquee games, the games everyone's interested in. And certainly this Bears-Chiefs game is getting a fair bit of betting attention. Neither team has looked great so far this season. Chicago's looked worse than Kansas City, and Kansas City obviously defending Super Bowl champs. Looking at the WagerTalk Live odds screen right now, I'm seeing the Chiefs, let's call it minus 12.5, total of 48 against the Bears. How do you break this one down, Mr. Ralph Michaels, and what do we do with these 0-2 teams here in Week 3?
Well, Teddy, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. And yes, Kansas City lost to Detroit in the opener. Again, they were missing some key pieces without Kelsey, without Jones. But, they rebounded against Jacksonville, having a 399, 271 yard edge. They did only put up 17 points. But the key point in that game is that they were minus 2 turnovers. They still held Jacksonville to 74 yards rushing. They had 4 sacks. And on the season, they've only allowed 1 sack. With the Bears, what are we looking at? We're looking at a team that's now lost 12 straight games. When Justin Fields had his heyday at the beginning of the season, they were running the ball more. Obviously, you're never going to survive as an NFL team running your quarterback as many times as Justin Fields rushed last season early in the year. So you have to try to devise some systems to get the ball out. Well, it hasn't quite worked. We saw Chicago gain 311 yards. They passed for 189 with 4 sacks in the opener. They go to Tampa Bay. They put up 236 yards. They get sacked 6 times. That's telling you just.
Ralph Michaels, I think we froze. It's the lack of the pen, Teddy. Well, we're going to get him back. Before we get into that, let's go through the show today. Ralph will be back. He's got a chart for us. He's also looking at ULL versus Buffalo in college football. Andy Lang, after that, he's got 3 prop bets, all NFL. Teddy, you're going to look at the Baltimore Indy game, right?
I am. Ravens and the Colts. Curious. We'll break that down in Big Game Breakdown. And, of course, Arthur DiCesare from the Westgate Superbook to close out the show as well.
Yeah, and our betting question is great, sent in by Sports Avenger, our betting strategy question. We'll get into that. It talks about whether to take the lowest totals on the board and bet them under and the highest over. Teddy, I had a really crappy night last night. I don't know if I had as bad a night as the Giants had. I went 0-3, dude. I had the Giants plus 10.5. I had over the total of 44. My handicap was that the Giants could get me to 17 points. Clearly, I was wrong. And I had the under in rushing attempts from Christian McCaffrey, which I lost by half a point. These prop bets could really get under your skin, dude. I needed 3 more yards from Baker on Monday. Derek Carr on Monday. And I needed just 1 less run from Christian McCaffrey. And it's like, Anyway, 0-3 night for my clients. I'm gutted by it. Go ahead.
The good news is that here on the show, Dan Alexander, Newbie Talks, came on and gave out the Moody field goal props over. That was a no sweat, so at least we gave you guys one winner throughout the course of the week on that game. My big game breakdown yesterday, I talked about it. I'm like, I lean Giants, but I'm not pulling the trigger. And this is why that trend was really strong with the double-digit home chalk.
Yeah.
And once again, my biggest takeaway from last night is never forget the fundamentals. The team that dominates the line of scrimmage is going to cover the point spread more often than not. San Fran was able to control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball last night, leading to a relatively easy victory.
Yeah, and it was really a perfect game by San Fran. I mean, just so absolutely impressive. Purdy's numbers, I think offhand, were 27 for 35, something like that. Christian McCaffrey. Is there a more electric offensive player in football that doesn't play in the quarterback position than him? And he's
Yes.
what? I think he's who?
Debo for one, on the same team.
No.
Have you watched Bijan Robinson play yet?
Yeah, he looks good. He looks good.
Watch him at Detroit this week. This kid is making moves like I haven't seen. McCaffrey's very good.
I'll tell you something impressive about McCaffrey is he is a running back, and I think he's in year 6 or 8. Man, most of the running backs never even make it to year 4, and he's like the Adam Trigger of running backs. He just keeps going and going and going and going and going. Never to stop. So, are you ready for the NFL card?
I'm ready for Ralph Michaels, who's waiting patiently to come back in and finish his Chiefs analysis.
Well, you'd think the producer would tell me. You'd be like, hey, Ralph is...
He did twice, by the way.
Oh,
yeah, you've just been yapping so much you didn't even notice.
Ralph Michaels.
Back,
doesn't look very happy. I think he's frozen again.
Well, that's
Teddy,
so much for bringing Ralph.
Let's talk about that Kansas City game. It really fits into that trend again. Minus 12.5. There's slight money coming in on Chicago. Are you going to be in action on this game?
Which trend are you talking about? The one. Well, you just said it fits into that trend. What trend does it fit into?
The home favorites at minus 10 and
no, that's Thursday. That's only for the Thursday night games.
Oh, that's only for Thursday. Oh, Ralph Michaels is back. Little messy, but Chris Lawrence says the show is cracking him up. Well, Chris, I appreciate that. That's the most important
See what
thing.
happens, Teddy said it. When there is no pen, there is complete chaos. So Teddy predicted it.
From the get-go.
Teddy and Prez, the angle was double-digit favorites in the NFL have been solid. And if you look at NFL favorites of 11 points or more since 2015, and I use that date often because it's the date they moved the extra point line back, those teams have gone 78, 45, and 5, 63.4%. So I have a Chiefs team that now has Kelsey and Jones back, had 4 sacks last week against Jacksonville on the road, against the Chicago O-line that has allowed 10 sacks in 2 games. I'm not afraid to lay the number with this KC team. Remember, they're returning home off a previous home loss to the Detroit Tigers in Week 1. The Bears have now lost 12 straight games overall. They're not letting Justin Fields run with scheduled runs like they did last year with the new OC. I think that's more chaos for the Bears. I'm not afraid to lay the number with the Chiefs here.
Ralph Michaels joining us, everyone. The show is underway. Ralph, sorry about that. You got a chart for us. Yeah, Teddy, it's a mess. It's a Friday free-for-all. Ralph?
Well, let's make this chart simple, guys, and it's this. We're week 3 of the NFL. So I'm not telling you these are great situations. I'm not telling you they're bad situations. I just want to make you aware. Top chart are game 3 teams that are 2-0. Middle chart in the brown are game 3 when teams started 0-2. And the 1-1 chart on the bottom, guys, on the left are 1-1 if they won game 2 and lost game 1. And on the right-hand side, 1-1 and the previous game was a loss. So they won their opener and lost. So let's look at the 2-0 teams. Not much to share there, guys. 49.2% for 2-0 teams. That's great. You do see they've gone over 56.7%. And remember, the first 2 weeks in the NFL have been big unders. But look at the 0-2 teams. NFL, a league of parity. 0-2 teams blindly have gone 60.9% since 2015. LA Chargers and Minnesota facing each other, but on the right-hand side, an 0-2 team against a team with at least one win has gone 64.2%. That's a very strong number. Obviously, 0-2 teams are desperate. 0-2 teams this week: Denver, New England, Houston, Carolina, Chicago, Arizona, and Cincinnati. And on the bottom, this one surprised me. There was such a disparity. On the left-hand side, 1-1 teams, where the teams won last week, they're 51.7%. But on the right-hand side, 1-1 teams that a team lost last week have gone 37.9%. Those teams: Cleveland, Detroit, Green Bay, Jets, Jacksonville, Las Vegas, and the Rams. Again, we're never going to base a play on this information, but it just helps make one of your plays stronger or weaker looking into NFL week number 3.
So, Ralph, I want to ask you, you just came on and talked about Kansas City. You like the Chiefs as favorites against the Bears, and yet when we look into the most negative subset of that entire sheet is bet against these 0-2 teams. You know, the 0-2 teams have been consistent moneymakers for the better part of the last decade. How do you between the two, where you're looking at taking
reconcile
Kansas City, how do you reconcile? That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you, Lawrence. How do you reconcile that?
Again, we talk about this all the time, guys. If 64% of the teams cover, that means 36% not cover. If you like a team strong enough and you weigh in the fact that this situation is 64%, you weigh in all the other facts. The O-line versus the D-line of Kansas City, Mahomes against the secondary of Chicago, those outweigh those situations. So, I'm actually old school, Teddy and Prez. I write down my games. I write my arrows up and what the angles are. I write my arrows down what the situations are, and you weigh all of those at the end of the week. And KC clearly outweighs the negatives of Chicago. Obviously, I'm aware of the 0-2, but again, 36% don't cover. So that means at least two of those teams are likely not to cover, and I think the Bears are going to be one of those.
Ralph Michaels joining us, everyone, and he's old school. He still uses a pen. Teddy, it's so funny he mentions that. I can't read my own handwriting anymore. I write so seldomly that when I do, I go back and look at it. I'm like, what is that? Do you write ever? Like, do you actually write with a pen? And if you do you do it in cursive or not?
Me? Yes,
Yeah.
I write. Yes, my handwriting is choppy. Yes, no one else is going to read it but me. But I haven't written anything in cursive since like 4th grade, dude. No, except my signature.
Who the hell? Yeah. Ralph, you write in cursive?
I write in Dr. Write.
Morse code.
Scribble. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Well, let's get into the college football game. ULL, they're -10. They're on the road. They're playing Buffalo, the Bulls. They're at home, Teddy?
Thank you. Yeah. I want to start this one off,
Nothing
guys.
to do with that game.
I want to start off with a betting premise that I think is a myth. When I'm breaking down games with some of the people I respect, even people I respect and are astute bettors sometimes say, well, how can you lay double digits with a running team? And I think back to those Wisconsin days. I think back to some of the better running teams. I actually favor having a double-digit favorite that's a running team, and I just want to explain why for one quick second. If you have a running team like ULL, back to the running team they are accustomed to this year, and they have a lead in the second half, what happens? They bring in their 2s, they bring in their 3s. Well, those offensive lines, those running backs, those wide receivers practice that exact same offense in the entire offseason, the entire summer camps, and every year. So they continue to run the exact same offense, and if you're playing a team that has a weak run defense, you can do it well. On the flip side, if you have a pass team that has a big lead and now tries to slow the clock by running the ball, they're taking out of their normal offense. In Buffalo, we have a team that is 0-3. They lost to Wisconsin. Yes, they got outgained by 170 yards, not a bad loss. Losing to Fordham at home was an embarrassment. They got outgained by 97 yards. Losing on the road to Liberty, not horrible, but getting outgained by 206 yards are. This Buffalo team is allowing 230 yards per game rushing, 5.8 yards per carry, and 66% completions. ULL started off with a win against Northwestern State. We'll just write that off. They did have a bad loss against Old Dominion. They were 66 yards on the plus side. They did have 458 yards, but they struggled down in the red zone, got down to the 6-yard line, first and goal at the 6 at the end of the game, couldn't score. They rebounded against a decent UAB team on the road, gaining 305 yards, 7.6 yards per carry. But two more stats I want to share with you on this ULL team. They have been dynamite on the defensive line. They have 15 sacks. That is number 3 in the country to pressure Cole Snyder and the Bulls offense. And they are a very, very stable team. They're one of only 7 teams in the entire country, the 133 FBS teams, to return all 10 assistants. And Mike DeSormo has talked about how that really has stabilized the program. It's hot. It's humid. The Bulls, now on the road for the second time since their opener. ULL pulls away in the second half with a powerful running game and a powerful front 7 against the Buffalo Bulls.
Boom! Ralph Michaels. What do you got to promote?
Well, the ULL Bulls game is an actual client release. But if you're interested in grabbing Ralph 3, that's a 3-day all-access pass for $55. I have a 5% MLB play today, full college football card on Saturday, full NFL card on Sunday. But more importantly, last week I started on my homepage at WagerTalk. Every system and angle that I break down on Bet-A-Net, the TNA segment, it is a complete PDF. You'll see every system, every ATS record, every team it applies to, and all the charts. That's loaded every Wednesday night. Make sure you head to my homepage each and every week and download that Bet-On-It TNA guide. You'll be glad you did.
There we go, Ralph Michaels, everybody. Outstanding work. Thank you for joining us. Teddy, man, you got yourself a kick-ass show that you are on. It's not as great as WagerTalk Today, but man, it's hard to beat perfection. But I mean, it's literally like this much lower. Like, just like, teeny bit. Tell us about the show, brother.
Yeah. This show, not perfection, Lawrence. We work for it, but today is not going to be a show that is going to go anywhere near the perfection. But yes. I don't hype a lot on the show. That's not my role here. It's fine. I got a 5% this weekend. You can check it out over at WagerTalk.com. Yada, yada. You guys know me. You guys know where to find my plays. If you're interested, get on board. I want to talk today about the other show that I'm doing, or one of the other shows that I'm doing, but the biggest other show that I'm doing. That's Beat the Odds here. And look at the football.
No, lower it. Oh, look at that. Nice.
Yeah,
Beat the Odds.
Yeah, exactly. It's you can check out the website, beattheoddstv.com. It'll have clips, and it has all the affiliates. This is one of those check your local listings kind of show. We record every Thursday in the Fox 5 studio right here in Las Vegas. It airs Friday night here in Vegas. Friday night, we come right after the news, before TMZ. We're against Jeopardy. And we've been number 2 behind Jeopardy in the rankings, which I'll take that. Wow. I got no problem with that here in the Las Vegas market. But, I mean, we're in literally hundreds of markets across the country. You know, Boston, Atlanta, Louisville, Memphis, on and on down the line, Honolulu, Pittsburgh, Phoenix. And it's one of those check your local listings. We're getting about more than 500,000 views a week. So it has gotten a little bit of traction. The show, of course, called Beat the Odds. And it's not like this. It's, it's on the stake. There's a lot of sizzle. But if you want to see me on national TV, check out the show, Beat the Odds. Check out Beat the Odds TV.
Who's on the show with you?
On the other handicapper, his name is Fat Jack Ross. There's Dave Hall, who is the local anchor of Fox 5 News here in Las Vegas. We have Mariah Janos and Brandon Marshall as contributors as well.
Wow, that sounds like a great show. So
Thank you, Lauren.
Is Fat Jack, is that his name, Fat Jack?
Yes.
Is he skinny?
No.
So he's clearly not Australian. Because if he was Australian, Fat Jack would be the skinniest damn guy in the class. They got this amazing ability to reverse. It's all counterintuitive nicknames. So, like Skinny Sam is like 400 pounds. Fat Jack is 120 soaking wet. Anyway, Gray Teddy with us. That's the American nickname because you're gray and old and decrepit, just like me. Okay, speaking of not gray, not old, and not decrepit, Andy Lang is joining us. And Andy, I heard you got hugs to give out. I need one.
Yeah. The chat room could use a hug, a little meditation. Someone suggested an edible. All the above. Let's have a Friday.
I over-edibilized last night, Andy. I over-edibilized. I have these new they're drops now, so I don't have to eat or chew. Now it's just like literally drop it right in. That's nice. Where the world has come. So I over-edibilized. Then I went 0-3, and then I watched The Expendables 3 to drown my sorrows. Anyway, guys, if you want a presidential address, I got 2 prop bets to give out. Please hit that like button, especially with Andy Lang joining us. So, dude, you got some prop bets for us? One at a time? No, you know what? Go through them all, and if Teddy has a follow-up, he will.
All right, let's start with Deshaun Watson, over 30.5 pass attempts. There's this trend in the NFL where we love trying to take advantage of these teams that are really good against the run and bad against the pass, and the Tennessee Titans fit that mold. The Titans, 11th least rush attempts against them, and they're only allowing 2.7 yards per carry. They're really, really hard to run on. However, so far they've allowed the 5th most passing yards against them and the 10th most pass attempts against them. Carr had 33 attempts against them in week 1. Justin Herbert had 41 attempts against them in week 2. So Deshaun Watson, he had 29 attempts in week 1, but that was a game they beat Cincinnati 24-3. Against the Steelers, he had 40 attempts. And I went back and I looked at the play calling and the game plan with Nick Chubb in the game and without Nick Chubb. So against the Steelers, the first 25 offensive plays with Nick Chubb, they only passed the ball 44% of the time. When Nick Chubb went out, they passed the ball 54% of the time. I think this number is really low. Deshaun Watson is going to have to throw the ball. I don't think their running game is that good. If you take away that big, long run from Jerome Ford, he really didn't do much. So I'm in on Deshaun Watson having to pass the ball a lot. I think we got a small window to take advantage of this prop. So give me over 30.5 pass attempts from Deshaun Watson. I'm really interested to hear Teddy's breakdown on the Colts and the Ravens. I've had a really good read on the Colts so far, so I'm interested to see what he doesn't like about the Colts team.
Andy, if you're that curious, we can keep you on, and he can do his big game breakdown, and then you can do a follow-up.
Oh, that would be amazing. I'm going to blow through these props here so I can do a follow-up. Fade the Colts secondary. I've been jumping up and down telling you the Colts secondary is terrible. They are. And their rush defense is really good. It's very Tennessee Titans-esque. I want Zay Flowers over 48.5 receiving yards. He had 78 against Houston, 62 against Cincy. Those are the 10th and 11th best teams in passing yards allowed. The Colts are 28th. And number 1 wide receivers have crushed in the first 2 games. Calvin Ridley, 8 catches for 101 yards. Nico Collins, 7 catches for 146. Anthony Richardson, it looks like, is not going to be in this game. Doesn't matter. I love fading this Colts secondary. That is the way to attack them. Their rush defense is really, really good. You do not want to run right into them. Just pass the ball all over. Give me Zay Flowers as a number 1 wide receiver to go over his total against the Colts secondary. And then my last prop, Dameon Pierce, give me the under 43.5 rushing. This is a horrific rush offense. 11 carries for 28 yards against Baltimore, 15 for 31 against Indy, averaging 2.7 yards per run. And Indy and Baltimore, they've allowed the 5th and 6th least amount of rushing yards. The Jaguars are 8th. They're very, very good against the run so far, and they allow the 10th most passing yards. This is another team you attack through the air. And, Dameon Pierce, he gets 1.4 yards before contact per carry. That means he's basically getting hit in the backfield when he touches the ball. Compare that to someone like Raheem Mostert. He gets 5.1 yards before contact. So Dameon Pierce, I think, is a good running back. His offensive line is doing him no favors. Give me the under on 43.5 rushing.
So here's my follow-up, Andy, and it goes with both the first and the second prop that you mentioned. Deshaun Watson over and Zay Flowers over. Conceptually, when I'm betting a quarterback's pass attempts over or a wide receiver's yardage over, don't I want the underdog, not the favorite? Because in theory, the favorite's going to have the lead. The favorite's going to kill clock in the second half. NFL games are relatively short. And you can see these overs look good at halftime and then die if your team has a lead because they're not chucking the football around. So in general, does it bother you to take your overs on these passing props for passing attempts and receiving yards with chalk as opposed to with dogs?
No, it doesn't, because if they get the lead, they're going to have to use Zay Flowers to get the lead. And if Cleveland does get the lead, they're going to have to use Deshaun Watson over. So I'm not worried about laying numbers on overs with favorites, because if they're going to put up 30 points, they're going to have to get there somehow. And you look at someone like Deshaun Watson, I don't think I would take this if Nick Chubb was healthy. I think I would kind of pass on it. And with Zay Flowers, I just think I have a really good read on the Colts team. And this is a Zay Flowers. He can do this in 1 or 2 catches. The Colts do not have anyone man-to-man that can keep up with Zay Flowers. He's going to be running around the secondary wide open. So, no, Teddy, the favorite versus the underdog does not worry me at all, because if the Ravens get up big, Zay Flowers is going to be a big part of it. And this Titans-Cleveland game, I think it could be close. It could look a lot like last week's game against Steelers, where Deshaun Watson had 40 attempts. So I think these numbers are just a little bit too soft. I want to take advantage.
No, you're muted. Lawrence, you're muted.
I'm not muted anymore. Okay, so you want to know how good Andy Lang is at handicapping? Andy Lang and I have been dueling for a month for who is the number one handicapper in the last 365 days at this very moment. But I have looked, and it will end on Monday. But at this very moment, Andy, you don't have the ability to look. I do. Andy Lang is the number one handicapper of the last 365 days. He has until Monday, I think. Monday or Tuesday to continue to say that, unless I really shit the bed. But Andy, man, I mean, that's unbelievable. Number one consistently. Every few days you'll drop below me or Koken or Pavlos, then you're back up. So congratulations on that. That's the most important record that we have at the website, the long-term win rate. But short-term wise, 11-1 MMA run, 23-9 NFL 5% run. And you've got a 5% NFL play and a 5% UFC play up for this weekend. You got a 3-day pass. Give it out. Thank you, dude.
Yeah, I told everyone, just save the 3-day pass promo code for today. Now's when you want to use it. Andy3, that's promo code ANDY3. Get you 3 days for $55. And yes, we have a 5% UFC play, 11-1 in our last 12 MMA plays, and 23-9 in NFL 5% plays the last 2 seasons. We started off the year 2-0. So you use that promo code and you get both of those 5% plays along with every other play in every other sport. MLB, it's a Formula One weekend, as you know, Prez, so we will have Formula One plays. We have a great lacrosse play. That is up. So just use that promo code. You get both 5% plays, and no better time to use that 3-day pass. Andy, 3 days for $55.
Andy, stay with us. You're going to get to ask Teddy a follow-up question. We will run the show late today because we had some issues at the top. Teddy covers. We need more likes, man. We have 300 people watching live, only 80 likes. We need to get 100. You get 2 teaser bets that I have already made. So make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel. Dude, Baltimore playing Indianapolis. It looks like Minshew will be playing, and Baltimore is injured as hell. So how do we handicap this game?
Well, it's time for today's big game breakdown. Let's talk some NFL for Sunday. The Ravens and the Colts. Right now, look at the WagerTalk live odds screen. Let's call it Baltimore -8, total of 44 for this contest. There have certainly been question marks about who's going to play QB for Indy this weekend. In my mind, that's advantage Indy. It looks like Minshew's going to play. We don't know that for sure. Harbaugh said, we got to prepare for both quarterbacks. The problem is going to be the reps. They're just a little bit different in what plays they run specifically. We have to get a feel for that as the week goes on. And really, we have to prepare for both. So you're preparing for 2 quarterbacks. Even though today's Friday and it doesn't look like Richard's going to play, I'm sure there's a game plan for him. And that's splitting up some reps. And of course, if Richard does get in, the quote from Harbaugh, Richard has been, he's been tough to defend the last couple of weeks. You look at the Baltimore side of the equation right now, and this is a classic division sandwich spot coming off a division game, another one coming up on deck, which is always a concern for a team that hasn't been very good in the chalk roll. And when you ask me about Minshew versus Richardson, I don't put any downgrade on Indy's power rating. I know Richardson can make more plays with his feet. Minshew is a savvy vet who has led this offense and capable of leading the team to victory. Did it last week, obviously against a weaker opponent than the one they'll face here. But it's certainly not a Colts team, even with all of their weaknesses, that can't hang around in games like this one. I don't like to put my money on weaker teams against stronger ones in September, but this is too many points. Give me Indy plus the 8. There's your big game breakdown. Back to
Teddy
you,
covers.
Mr. President. And he's got a follow-up for me. I look forward to it.
Yeah.
I know what he's going to In fact, I know what his follow-up is.
Oh, way to ruin it. Go ahead.
Oh, let's see. But my guess as to what his follow-up is aren't you worried about that awful Colts secondary that I talked about, and Baltimore can score 3 touchdowns in the first half? My answer to that would be yes, and that's
Teddy,
why.
what is this, your own damn show? Okay.
This is great.
Do you even need us? You're going to ask and answer for Art DiCesare as well? Andy?
I hope so.
Go ahead.
Teddy is dead on. Are you worried that the Baltimore Ravens can rush and they can exploit a good rush defense, but if they need to, they can turn to passing the ball? And it's 8 points. Gardner Minshew came in with a lead. He didn't prove that he can go toe-to-toe with an offense. They played a terrible Houston team. What has Gardner Minshew shown that he can compete with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens?
So Gardner Minshew has shown me throughout the course of his NFL career that he's absolutely capable of coming in, taking a team and guiding them to victory. He's not a good quarterback. He is an acceptable backup quarterback. And with a Baltimore team that has injuries in the secondary all over the place, on the offensive line all over the place, and the fact that Baltimore had to prepare for 2 different styles of play this week, I think Minshew is serviceable, and I think you can keep him within a touchdown. Excellent follow-up, Andy. Thank you.
There we go. Andy Lang, everybody. Teddy's big game breakdown. By the way, Teddy, I agree with Indianapolis as the call there, in case you cared. We've got our BS strategy question and then Art DiCesare. Dan, put that question up on the screen. Okay. This was sent in by Sports Avenger 4066. When it comes to the NFL and NCAAF, does it make sense to just bet over on high totals and bet under on low totals, especially in primetime games? Now, We saw this question early this morning. We honestly did not have time to get the full data for you guys. I just want to speak conceptually really quickly, and then we're going to alleviate the NCAAF because we do have some data for you for the NFL. On a whole, this question is slightly different to what I talk about. What I talk about is if you bet the highest total, Minnesota and the Chargers this week, bet it over. If you bet the lowest total, New York Jets and New England this week, bet it under. As far as high totals, which is, let's say, 49 and up or 42 and down for low totals, we have a chart for you guys on that. But I think across all sports, if you take the highest total of that day and bet it over, and you take the lowest total of that day and bet it under, I think you'll find yourself a winning bettor in the long run. Dan, put that chart up, and Teddy, why don't you walk us through it?
Sure. Basically, what the chart says, all right, this is NFL regular season primetime games since 2015. It says you can't blindly play the high totals over, but you sure can blindly play the low totals under.
Yeah.
That has been a profitable endeavor in recent seasons to just blindly play your lowest totals under. Two teams the markets expect to struggle to score tend to result in low-scoring ball games. We'll see if Arthur DiCesare from the Westgate Superbook sees a trend of people coming in and betting these low total games under, or whether that's something that's been ignored by a large part of the betting populace.
Yeah, 42 and under in prime time. If you bet that under, you're at a 62% win percentage. And Teddy, we spoke yesterday about what's the why. Why? And I think it works here because people by nature want to bet over. The general publics, the Joes, they want to bet over. So there's always going to be more value on under. But let's ask Art DiCesare. Art, are you with us? Hey!
I am with you, and I'm with you in this concept. And I'm also with you in the fact that, we always talk, there's so much information out there now. And everyone's on YouTube or Twitter or, whatever they are. And people are getting information. And primetime unders are like a thing in the NFL. And people are starting to realize on Thursday, Sunday, and Monday nights, take unders. And, they hit a lot. And that's something that we fight against a lot. You saw that last night with that total going down a point and a half. And, just stayed under. 42 points they finished with. So, we see that a lot with the NFL prime times. College is a way different. I mean, it's just so volatile with college. The numbers, obviously with the clock this year, we've seen a lot of sharp bettors want to come in and want to bet unders because of the clock movement and teams getting maybe 8 to 12 less plays. And, that obviously hurts the really good offensive teams. And coaches obviously talked about that. So a little bit different in college.
Art, do you have a reason to why? I mean, one could argue the Thursday night unders because they're both the teams are playing on a short week. But the Monday night unders, they're playing on a long week. You find is there a method to this? I mean, you would think that in the prime time, trying to show off your product with the most amount of people watching, that we would be seeing games with Kansas City and Buffalo and the Chargers and Cincinnati and a whole lot of high-scoring, delicious football. Why?
Yeah, it's a great question. Thursday, I think it's pretty obvious. It's the short week for the most part. You're right. The Sunday night game, it used to be Monday night was the big night. You got the best matchups. Now you get the best matchups on Sunday night. And you're right, Prez. You get a lot of offensive teams, a lot of offensive firepower, best quarterbacks in the league, and you expect things to go up and down, and that really doesn't happen. So I don't really know what the rhyme or reason is to it, but it really is something that I know for myself is not only someone who works in a risk room, but someone who likes to put a couple wagers down every now and again. I mean, that's something that sits in the back of my mind when it comes to a primetime NFL game.
Every now and again. Every week, Art, this season, you're making bets. You can't fool us. Every now and again, the guy goes. But Lawrence said something earlier that I want to circle back to. He said, and I believe I'm quoting, there's always more value with unders than overs because bettors want to bet overs. Do you agree with that?
I do. And, Teddy, I know you and I have had this conversation for years, and Lawrence hit it. He hit it right on the head. The public, the Joes, the guy who comes in for the weekend, he doesn't want to root for 17-10. He just doesn't. He wants to sit in the sports book and root for 35-28 and, be having a beer and a hot dog and scream at the television and root for overs. They don't want to sit there and worry about a game that, it might cash them a ticket, but it's, a 17-10 game. So I think sometimes if a public or a market number gets moved up and a total goes up a point or a point and a half, that's when you see the sharps come in instantly and think, well, this is the best number I'm going to get. And they just take the under. It happens all the time.
Art DiCesare joining us, everyone. Art, we love having you on the show. Great follow on Twitter at Art Dice. Art, let's talk NFL, and then Teddy will
At
get
Art Dice 21 on Twitter.
At Art Dice 21. Teddy, that's why you're here. Roll your eyes, baby. Roll them again. Oh, there we go. Art, in the NFL, are you seeing any bets that we should make? Any wise money coming in? Any line moves that you might anticipate? Help our listenership out with the NFL card.
Sure. A couple NFL things I'm seeing. I think one that's interesting. It's not a great NFL slate. Some of the matchups leave a lot to be desired. Jacksonville opened as high as 10. We saw some good sharp money come in on the other side on the Texans. Jacksonville's basically 8 now, and we get it. Houston has a rookie, quarterback, first-round pick. Hasn't looked that bad. They've been competitive for the most part, even though week 1 it was against Baltimore. It was almost a 20-point loss, but, they've moved the ball, and I don't think people are excited to lay, when it opened, 10 points with Jacksonville, and it's a divisional game. So Houston, a lot of nice money came in on them. Pittsburgh and Vegas, which is interesting because Pittsburgh in a look-ahead line basically was going to be -1, -1.5. Their offenses looked so bad. They come here Sunday night to play in Vegas, and now Vegas is -2.5, -120, even saw some threes. I think that is interesting to see the Vegas money come in because Pittsburgh usually takes money. They usually take money when they're an underdog. Granted, normally when they're an underdog at home, they take the money, so you see that. Obviously, the Monday night game, Philly and Tampa. Tampa has been one of the surprises of the NFL. Philly hasn't looked as sharp. It was 6.5. It's now 5. So Tampa money came in. These big double-digit spreads, they really don't see a lot of action. Dallas, Kansas City, these type of spreads, they're really just going to be money line sweeteners for people in their parlays. There's not a lot of people who want to lay those points. And to me, Atlanta was the team that saw the most early in the week action getting money at Detroit. They were as high as 5. It's now Detroit -3, -120. So early in the week, Atlanta got a lot of love. Big game for Detroit. You really can't lose 2 in a row at home, especially because they thought they were going to be such a big team after that week 1 win in Kansas City.
Falcons, a clear wise guy play. Strong info from Arthur DiCesare from the Westgate Superbook here in Las Vegas. Art, before we let you go, we got to talk some college football. And I want to ask you 2 college football questions. One, let's focus on the 4 Friday night games, and then we'll come back again and take a look at Saturday. But what are you seeing for tonight in terms of college football action? Who do the pros like? Who do the Joes like? Where does the Westgate stand? Where are you guys liable this evening in college football?
I would say the big one is Air Force. People are on Air Force. People feel good about it. This Air Force team playing San Jose State. Obviously, Air Force with the running and the option. That's moved from like 3.5 to 5.5, 6. So Air Force will be one team we're rooting against this, tonight. Obviously, there's 3 other games, but I would say San Jose State, the Spartans, will be our big need tonight.
They're rooting for the Spartans, worth noting. And, of course, when we look at Saturday's card, lots of marquee matchups. This is going to be a Saturday we get to be glued to our TVs pretty much from 9 in the morning here in Vegas till the Hawaii game will be over after midnight. So it's going to be a long day on Saturday. Where are you seeing action? And talk about that Hawaii game if you can, because I know when you talk about late night bailout specials, the audience might want to be interested in the Hawaii game before all said and done on Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday's incredible. What a slate. I mean, we got all these ranked teams playing. Start early, FSU at Clemson. Clemson in look-ahead lines over the summer was -3. Basically reopened Florida State, 2.5, 3. A lot of money came in on Clemson. I don't think there's any surprise there. Clemson has owned Florida State. And I think now that you're getting the home points, people want to take a shot with Clemson. The only thing that helps Florida State, it's not a night game, it's an early game. Colorado, they're obviously the story of college football. Oregon -21. Been real no move on the game on either side. Probably two-way on both. Little bit of bets coming in on the over at 70.5, which is wild, but that's more public wanting to take the over. UCLA at Utah, that was as low as 4.5. Now Utah -6. Looked like Cam Rising could give it a go. And even if he doesn't, people like Utah with the running game, with the coach, with the defense at home. So that's another one. Alabama, look-ahead line was 14.5 at home against Ole Miss in the summer. Reopened at 7. People still took Ole Miss +7. It's now 6.5. Shocking how far Alabama's fallen. Jackson Dart for Ole Miss, pretty good quarterback, can make some plays. And then the big one of the weekend, Ohio State at Notre Dame. Ohio State was 7.5 in a look-ahead. It's now 3. I mean, this is seeing really good two-way action. Probably a little bit more money on Notre Dame would be the highest handle game of the weekend. In the end, we'll probably need Notre Dame, maybe, because I think it could flip. But right now, it kind of feels like there's more tickets on Notre Dame. But I think that might change by kickoff.
Art DiCesare.
And
Yeah, go ahead, Teddy.
last thing, you got anything for that Hawaii game?
Do I have any information? No, but I will say this, Teddy. The bailout special is real, and that is a thing that obviously is always talked about. And when you have a long day where one of the best games of the day kicks off 9 a.m. Vegas time, and then you're going to have a kickoff at 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Vegas time, it is real. The sportsbook will be churning. We'll be open till midnight. That could be even a game where we put a lot of games over the counter in-game. We might even put the Hawaii game on a late night in-game board just to give some bettors who are still in the book something to do.
Awesome stuff. Art, what do you have to promote?
Westgate Sportsbook, guys, come down. This is the time of the year we're really rocking and rolling. Obviously, mid to late September right now. All the other sports are going to start at some point. I got my Puck Time hoodie on today. Can't wait for hockey, NBA, all that type of stuff coming on. And, listen, as always, if anyone ever needs any help, down at the Westgate, you can always talk to the front line, but you can always ask for me. I'll be more than happy to help you. You can even reach out to me on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. My DMs are open. Feel free to, ask about anything, that pertains to the Westgate or betting or whatever, and I'll help you out.
Art DiCesare, everyone, outstanding. We love having you on. You'll be back next Friday, same time. Teddy, we got over 100 likes. I'm going to give out a bunch of NFL. Dan, it's time for the daily presidential address. Okay, guys, it's time for the daily presidential address, something we will be doing every single day once the NHL season starts. But until then, we will only do it on Fridays. I got every bet I'm giving out right now, and I'm going to give out 4. All 4 of them I have bet. These are not thoughts. These are bets that I have made. Before we get into that, I have a massive weekend planned for everybody. I have a college football play tonight. I have 3 tomorrow, including 1 on the Colorado and Oregon game and 1 on the Florida State Clemson game. And I have 10 bets for Sunday, including my first 5% play of the NFL season. You guys can get $15 off. Use the promo code PREZ15. That's PREZ 15. This is going to be a huge weekend for me, especially after a shitty Thursday night. Watch out. We'll talk about it on Monday. Okay, 2 teasers I have already bet. Jacksonville and New Orleans, 6-point teaser. The other teaser, 6-point teaser as well, Baltimore and Miami. So that's Jacksonville and New Orleans, Baltimore and Miami. My favorite total is the New York Jets under, and my favorite side is the Kansas City Chiefs minus 12.5. Now, those are not my favorite totals and sides across all the boards. Those are the ones I left out, but still made a bet on. So there you go. That's it for the show. I hope you guys have an incredible weekend. Please use that promo code Prez15. Make sure to not miss my 5% play. Teddy's got one as well. You can check that out at his page. Teddy, take us home.
Sure, that's going to wrap it for the week here on Wager Talk Today. We'll be back again next week, starting Monday, 9 a.m. here on the left coast, noon for you back east. Between now and Monday's show, hey guys, have a great weekend, make some money, and best of luck with all your wagers.